You are walking toward the edge of an industrial city in the early 19th century. There is no clear boundary where countryside ends and city begins. The transition is gradual, uneven. Fields give way to scattered buildings, then to clusters of hastily built homes. Roads that once carried carts of grain now carry people, many of them on foot, carrying bundles, tools, children. The city has been expanding outward, not by design, but by pressure. As you move forward, the air begins to change. It grows heavier, thicker with smoke that drifts low and lingers. Not the sharp smoke of a single fire, but a constant presence. Coal burned in many places at once. You do not yet see the factories clearly, but you can feel their pull. This is a city that has grown because work is here, and because people have followed that promise faster than the city can adapt. The street beneath your feet is uneven. In some places it is paved. In others, the stones are missing or sunk into mud. Water collects in shallow depressions, mixed with refuse. There is no uniform surface, no sense of a planned approach. Each addition to the street feels reactive, as if it was laid down only when movement became impossible without it. Buildings crowd closer together as you walk. Many are new, or appear new, but not in a careful way. Their walls are thin. Brickwork is rough and inconsistent. Windows are small, often mismatched. These structures were built quickly, with urgency rather than permanence in mind. They are meant to hold people now, not necessarily to last. You pass rows of houses that look nearly identical, yet none of them are quite the same. Some lean slightly. Others have been extended backward or upward in makeshift ways. Wooden additions press against brick walls. Roof lines break unevenly. Every available space has been used, subdivided, adapted. The street is narrow, not because it was designed to be, but because the buildings have pushed inward over time. What was once a passage wide enough for carts has become a corridor of constant movement. People brush past one another without stopping. There is little room to linger. You notice how many people are here. Not gathered deliberately, not congregating for a market or event, but simply existing in proximity. Children weave through legs. Adults move with practiced efficiency, avoiding collisions without looking. Everyone seems to know how to occupy as little space as possible. This density feels recent. The city has not grown accustomed to it yet. As you continue walking, you pass doorways that open directly onto the street. Inside, you glimpse dark interiors, single rooms holding entire households. Beds, tables, tools, clothing all share the same space. In some buildings, multiple families occupy different levels, or even different corners of the same floor. Privacy is minimal. Sound travels easily. You hear it everywhere. Footsteps above you, voices through walls, the scrape of furniture coughing. The city's expansion has compressed daily life inward, forcing activities that once took place across courtyards or open yards into confined interiors. The smell changes again as you move deeper. Waste disposal has not kept pace with growth. You pass open drains running along the sides of the street, shallow channels carrying a slow mixture of water and refuse. They were sufficient once, when fewer people lived here. Now they overflow easily. You step carefully. Carts struggle to pass through the crowd. When one does, people flatten themselves against walls or step briefly into doorways. The street pauses and reshapes itself around the obstruction, then resumes its flow. This is not chaos, it is adaptation. The city has learned to function under pressure, even if it cannot relieve it. Ahead, the skyline thickens. Chimneys rise above rooftops in increasing numbers. Some are tall and established, others are short, newly constructed, still rough. They mark places of work, factories, workshops, mills, that have drawn this population here. You are not yet inside the industrial core, but its influence is already visible. Housing clusters closer to sources of employment. Streets bend around factory walls. Entire neighborhoods seem oriented toward a single dominant workplace. As you walk, you notice how little separation there is between living and working spaces. In older cities, trades were often distributed, regulated, embedded into long-standing districts. Here, industry has arrived faster than regulation. Workshops operate beneath living quarters. Small factories appear beside homes. Noise and labor spill into residential space. The city feels stretched, not outward only, but internally. You pass a group of workers emerging from a building, their clothing marked by soot and wear. They move quickly, not lingering. Shifts overlap. Work cycles through the day and night. The rhythm of the city no longer follows daylight alone. This pace is new. The infrastructure has not adapted. Water must be carried farther than before. Wells serve more people than they were meant to. Queues form at certain hours. You see women and children waiting with containers, calculating time between household tasks and labor. Public spaces are scarce. What were once small squares or open areas have been encroached upon. Some have been built over entirely. Others remain only because they are too inconvenient to develop yet. When people gather, it is because there is nowhere else to go. As you walk, you sense a tension, not overt conflict, but strain. The city is holding more bodies, more movement, more waste, more noise than its original form anticipated. Systems that once worked through custom and habit are now overloaded. You pass a notice affixed to a wall, partially torn. Regulations exist, but enforcement lags behind growth. Authorities respond after problems appear, not before. The city expands first, governance follows later. The ground slopes slightly downward as you move into a lower-lying area. Here, the air feels damper. Drainage is poorer. Buildings show signs of moisture damage. Mold creeps along brick. Wooden beams darken with rot. These areas were among the first to be filled during expansion, chosen not for suitability, but for availability. People live here because space elsewhere ran out. You notice how residents have adapted interiors to compensate. Windows remain open despite cold or smoke, trading one discomfort for another. Curtains are thin. Light is scarce. Many rooms rely on shared illumination from the street or adjacent buildings. The city has grown vertically as well as outward. You look up and see additional floors added to older structures. Staircases inside are narrow and steep. Loads strain foundations not designed for them. Everything feels provisional. And yet the city works, barely but continuously. People know where to step, when to move, how to navigate congestion. Informal rules govern shared spaces. The expansion may be unplanned, but daily life has organized itself around necessity. As you continue walking, you realize that this is not a temporary state. What began as rapid growth has settled into a new normal. The city is no longer catching up. It is simply trying to hold together. You are walking inside a place that has grown too fast to reshape itself fully, and too large to return to what it was. This is the condition you are entering. You continue walking, but the city now feels closer around you. The buildings press inward, not just along the street, but vertically and inward toward their own interiors. This part of the city was never meant to carry this many lives at once. Housing has expanded here not through planning, but through subdivision, improvisation, and necessity. You pass a building with a single front door serving dozens of people. The entrance is worn smooth by constant use. Inside, a narrow corridor stretches backward into darkness, lined with doors on both sides. Each door marks a space that was once part of something larger, a workshop, a storage room, a family home, now divided again and again. The city did not build new housing fast enough, so existing structures were repurposed. You hear life through the walls. Conversations overlap. Children cry. Someone coughs repeatedly, deep and persistent. Floors creak above you as people move in patterns shaped by shared schedules. There is little separation between households. Sound, heat, and smell travel freely. As you walk, you notice how windows are used differently here. Many are kept open, even in poor weather. Fresh air matters more than warmth. In some places, windows are blocked by neighboring buildings built so close that daylight barely reaches inside. Curtains remain thin, often improvised from scraps of fabric, offering privacy without cutting off what little light there is. You glimpse interiors as doors open briefly. A single room might contain beds pushed against walls, a table in the center, tools hung from nails, clothing drying overhead. Cooking, sleeping, working, and resting all take place in the same confined space. There is no clear boundary between activities. Time, not space, separates them. Multiple families often share a building originally designed for one. In some cases, they share a single water source. In others, they share cooking facilities or sanitation. Waiting becomes part of daily routine, waiting to draw water, to cook, to wash, to sleep. Privacy is negotiated moment by moment. You pass an upper-floor window where a board has been placed outside to serve as a makeshift platform. Laundry hangs there, suspended over the street. Every horizontal surface becomes useful. Railings, window frames, ropes strung between buildings, all are pressed into service. Housing density increases as you move deeper. Courtyards that once provided light and air have been filled in. Temporary structures have become permanent by sheer duration. Wooden sheds lean against brick walls, forming new rooms that block passageways and trap moisture. These spaces were not approved, inspected, or designed. They appeared because people needed somewhere to live. You feel the temperature shift as you pass beneath overhangs and between closely packed buildings. Air circulation is poor. Smoke from cooking fires and nearby factories lingers, settling into fabrics and lungs alike. Walls absorb soot. Ceilings darken. At ground level, lower rooms suffer the most. Dampness seeps upward. Floors remain cold and wet for much of the year. Residents elevate furniture on bricks or boards to keep it from rotting. Repairs are constant but temporary. The city's rapid expansion has pushed poorer residents into its least suitable spaces. You notice how buildings show layers of adaptation. Original brick gives way to patched stone. Wooden beams are reinforced with scavenged materials. Staircases are added where none existed, often too steep and narrow, making movement dangerous, especially at night. You pass a stairwell where people move carefully, bodies angled to allow others to pass. There is an unspoken choreography here. Everyone knows when to step aside, when to wait. Crowding has created its own rules. Children play in corridors and stairwells. Streets are too congested, and open spaces too rare. Indoor play leaves marks, scratches on walls, worn steps, broken plaster. Noise echoes upward and outward, but no one intervenes. This is expected. As you continue walking, you see signs of economic pressure written into the buildings themselves. Rooms are rented by the night or by the week. Space is divided again when demand increases. What was once overcrowded becomes more so. Landlords benefit from proximity to factories. Workers accept conditions because alternatives are farther away, more expensive, or non-existent. Distance from work costs time and energy, both already scarce. You pass a building where a small workshop operates on the ground floor. The smell of oil and metal mixes with that of cooking food above. Machinery vibrates through the structure. Living spaces tremble with each movement below. The boundary between labor and rest has eroded. This integration is not ideological. It is practical. Work must be close, because time cannot be wasted on long commutes. The city's growth has compressed everything into walkable distances, regardless of compatibility. You sense fatigue in the way people move. Not exhaustion alone, but a constant low-level strain. Overcrowding amplifies every discomfort. Heat feels heavier. Cold cuts deeper. Illness spreads easily. You notice makeshift remedies. Windows propped open with sticks. Cloth hung to absorb moisture. Floors scrubbed daily despite persistent damp. These efforts keep conditions tolerable, not healthy. The housing system is no longer just shelter, it is a coping mechanism. As you walk, you realize how invisible this density might be from above. From a distance, the city appears solid, continuous, functional. But at street level, and inside these buildings, expansion reveals its cost in compressed lives and shared limits. This is how the city holds its people now. Not comfortably, not safely, but tightly enough to continue. You keep walking, deeper into the system that has formed around accelerated growth. As you keep walking, the strain of growth becomes harder to ignore. The city's systems were not built for this scale. They were extended, patched, and reused, but never fully redesigned. What once functioned quietly in the background now demands constant attention from the people who rely on it. You notice it first in the water. You pass a public pump surrounded by a loose cluster of people. Some wait with containers. Others argue softly about turn order. The pump was installed years ago, when this neighborhood held far fewer residents. Now it serves many times that number. Water flows more slowly. Breakdowns are frequent. When repairs happen, they are temporary. You see how water use shapes daily routines. People arrive early before work. Others wait until evening. Containers are reused, repaired, sealed with cloth or pitch. Every drop matters, because fetching more costs time and energy. Wells nearby show signs of overuse. The ground around them is worn down, muddy from constant foot traffic. In lower areas, runoff collects, mixing clean and waste water. The separation between the two is no longer reliable. As you move along, open drains line the edges of the street. They are shallow channels, originally designed to carry rainwater away. Now they carry much more. Waste from homes, workshops, and animals flows slowly through them. In dry weather, it stagnates. In rain, it overflows. You step carefully again. People have learned which parts of the street to avoid. Boards are laid across the worst sections. Stones are placed to form stepping paths. These solutions appear informal, but they are widespread. Maintenance has shifted from centralized control to collective habit. You smell it before you see it. Waste accumulation at a corner where the street dips. This area collects what the system cannot carry away. Residents pile refuse here because there is nowhere else. Collection, if it exists, is irregular. Children avoid the spot instinctively. Adults step around it without comment. The city absorbs this as part of its daily landscape. As you continue, you pass a narrow alley where sunlight barely reaches the ground. Here, dampness never fully dries. Walls are streaked dark. Moss and residue cling to stone. Air feels cooler, heavier. This is where poor drainage and overcrowding meet. Illness spreads easily in spaces like this. You notice subtle changes in behavior. People keep distance when they can. Some cover their mouths when coughing. Others move quickly through enclosed spaces, limiting exposure. These habits are not enforced, they are learned. Health infrastructure exists, but it lags behind growth. Clinics are few. Access is uneven. Many rely on home remedies or local practitioners. Serious illness often means lost work, which few can afford. You pass a building marked as a charitable institution. Its entrance is busy. This place did not exist before the city expanded. It appeared in response, not anticipation. Like many solutions here, it treats symptoms rather than causes. The streets grow louder as you approach areas where transport concentrates. Carts queue along narrow roads, waiting to unload goods or collect materials. Traffic jams form easily. Movement slows. People wait, then move in bursts. Roads were widened where possible, but buildings resist change. Demolishing housing means displacing residents, which creates new problems elsewhere. So the city compromises. It accepts congestion. You feel the pressure in how everything shares space. People, goods, animals, waste, water. Boundaries blur because there is no room to keep them separate. You pass a small bridge crossing a canal or drainage channel. The water below is dark and sluggish. It once served a specific function, transport, sanitation, or both. Now it struggles to do either effectively. Factories upstream discharge into it. Homes along its banks contribute as well. The canal still matters. People still use it. But its condition reflects the city's imbalance. You notice how infrastructure failures do not stop life. They reshape it. People adapt routes to avoid flooded streets. They adjust schedules around water access. They change diets when illness spreads. The city's residents become part of the system's operation. Authorities issue notices. Rules exist about waste disposal, water use, building standards. But enforcement trails behind reality. Inspectors cannot keep pace. Growth has outstripped oversight. As you walk, you sense how infrastructure has become visible. In older, slower-growing cities, systems fade into routine. Here, they demand attention every day. Everyone knows where the drains fail, where water runs short, where illness appears first. The city is learning through stress. You pass another pump, another drain, another improvised fix. Each tells the same story. The city did not plan to be this large, this fast. It is reacting constantly, never settling. And still people arrive. The factories continue to draw workers. Housing continues to fill. Streets continue to absorb more movement. Infrastructure stretches further, thinner, weaker. As you keep walking, it becomes clear that this expansion is not a temporary surge. It has locked the city into a state of continuous adjustment. Systems will always lag slightly behind demand. This is life inside accelerated growth, not collapse, but constant strain. As you move farther into the city, work becomes impossible to separate from everything else. You begin to notice how the rhythm of movement around you changes. People are no longer flowing evenly through the streets. Instead, they move in waves, clusters forming, dispersing, reforming again. These patterns are shaped by shifts, not daylight. The factories nearby dictate the city's pulse. You hear it before you see it, a low, continuous mechanical sound layered with sharper noises. Metal striking metal, belts turning, steam venting. These sounds do not rise and fall with the sun. They persist, marking time in a way the city has never experienced before. You pass a factory gate as workers emerge. Their faces are marked by fatigue rather than urgency. This is not the end of the day, just the end of a shift. Another group waits to enter. The transition is quick, efficient. The building never truly rests. The city's expansion has reorganized time itself. Before this growth, daily routines aligned loosely with daylight, seasons, and local customs. Now, time is measured in hours worked, minutes lost, distances walked. Clocks matter more than weather. Schedules replace natural cues. You walk alongside people heading toward work, their pace steady and practiced. They know exactly how long the journey takes. Routes are chosen for efficiency, not comfort. Detours are avoided unless necessary. The city has compressed distances, but not effort. Workplaces sit close to housing because they must. Long commutes would steal energy already spent on labor. As a result, industrial activity bleeds into residential space. Noise travels. Smoke drifts. Vibration passes through walls. You feel it underfoot, a faint tremor as machinery runs nearby. Even streets seem to hum. Inside workshops and factories, bodies adapt to repetitive motion and long hours. Outside, you see the consequences. Workers stretch their backs as they walk. Hands remain clenched, accustomed to tools. Some move stiffly, conserving effort. Children appear again, but differently now. Some carry small loads. Others accompany adults partway, then turn back. Not all of them attend school. In this city, labor absorbs more lives than education. The rapid expansion has created demand for work faster than systems of training or protection can respond. Skill levels vary widely. Accidents are common. Recovery is uncertain. You pass a man sitting near a wall, resting between shifts. He eats quickly, without ceremony. Meals are brief, functional. Food is fuel now, not an event. As you continue walking, you notice how the city's layout reflects these priorities. Streets near factories are busier at odd hours. Taverns open early or close late. Markets adjust schedules to catch workers before or after shifts. The city no longer shares a single daily rhythm. It runs on overlapping cycles. You see how this affects domestic life. Windows glow at unusual times. Some households sleep while others wake. Shared housing makes rest difficult. Night workers disturb day sleepers. Day workers return as others leave. Fatigue accumulates. The expansion has increased opportunity, but it has also fragmented time. Families struggle to synchronize routines. Meals are missed or eaten alone. Social ties thin as schedules diverge. You pass a public clock mounted high on a building. People glance at it as they walk. Timekeeping has become public, visible, necessary. Being late carries consequences. The body adapts, but not without cost. You see it in posture, in pace, in the way people conserve movement. Energy must be rationed across long days. The city's growth has made work central not just economically, but spatially and temporally. Everything bends around it: housing, transport, infrastructure, even rest. As you walk on, you realize that expansion has not simply added more people and buildings. It has restructured how life is lived minute by minute. This city does not slow down when it grows. It accelerates, and the people inside it must match that speed, or be left behind. As you continue walking, the effects of accelerated growth become visible on people themselves. You notice it in how they move. Not dramatic illness, not collapse in the streets, but a quieter, cumulative wear. Bodies shaped by long hours, poor air, limited rest. The city's expansion has not only filled space, it has settled into muscles, lungs, and habits. You pass a narrow street where light barely reaches the ground. Here, people linger less. Conversations are shorter. Movement is efficient. These spaces are associated with sickness, not because of superstition, but experience. Residents know where air feels stale, where damp lingers, where illness appears first. Health has become spatial. You see cloths hung in windows, signaling illness inside. Doors remain closed longer than usual. Neighbors adjust routes instinctively. No announcements are needed. Information travels through observation. Medical care exists, but it is uneven and reactive. Small clinics and charitable institutions treat the worst cases. For many, care happens at home. Rest is prescribed, but rarely possible. Missing work means missing income. Recovery is negotiated alongside necessity. You pass a woman leaning against a wall, breathing slowly before continuing on. No one stops. Not out of indifference, but because this pause is familiar. Everyone here has learned to manage exhaustion quietly. The city absorbs weakness as part of its function. You notice how children show signs of early adaptation. They move confidently through congestion. They know where to step, when to wait. But you also see thinness, persistent coughs, tired eyes. Growth has shortened childhood, folding it into adult routines. Public health measures appear sporadically. Notices advising cleanliness. Efforts to widen streets or improve drainage. These interventions matter, but they arrive after damage has already been done. The city is always responding to yesterday's crisis. You walk past a burial procession, moving carefully through the crowd. It does not stop the city. People step aside briefly, then resume their pace. Death is present, but it does not interrupt work for long. This is not cruelty. It is adaptation under pressure. You feel how normalized this strain has become. Conversations do not dwell on discomfort. People complain about shortages, delays, wages, but rarely about conditions themselves. The city's form has reset expectations. What once would have been unacceptable has become ordinary. As you near the center of industrial activity, the air thickens again. Smoke hangs low, settling into everything. People cover their mouths instinctively. Some wrap scarves even indoors. These habits are learned responses to an environment that offers no relief. You realize that the city's expansion has created a paradox. It promises opportunity, work, survival, but it also demands constant endurance. Life here is not lived in balance. It is lived in adjustment. And yet, the city continues to grow. New buildings rise at the edges. New people arrive. Systems stretch further. Each generation enters a city already under strain, already normalized. As you slow your pace, the full shape of the city becomes clear, not as a single failure, but as a condition. Accelerated growth has locked it into a state where pressure is permanent and stability is provisional. You are not walking through a moment of crisis. You are walking through the everyday reality of a city that grew faster than it could change itself. This is how it holds together.